Section 3, this will cover our reading for chapter 8 till 14, and it is really technical discussion today. We will see a lot of formulas and concept. First concept is cash conversion cycle. This is a really important cycle for the liquidity management. It covers like when we place an order, we pay to the supplier. Then suppose we bought from USA, it takes 30 days to reach here, 25-30 days to reach on the port. Then it will be cleared, then it will bring in your warehouse. You need 20 days to process in a new shape, finished goods. Then you will sell it to the showroom. Showroom will take 30 more days to make it sellable. Once you will sold, maybe you give 4 weeks credit period. So this whole process before payment and getting money from the customer is our trade cycle. So when we acquire, convert to finished good, bill inventory, sell finished goods, and collect payment and back to one. This is called a cash conversion cycle. This is really important to manage, because if your payment period is less, means you have to put money from your side in order to acquire the raw materials. So it creates an extra cash requirement for you. So you should have a smart cash conversion cycle. In-house banking is the Treasury becomes the company center for the banking services. This allows Treasury to manage the overall banking relationship and receive discounts by creating a banking economy of scales. When we say economies of scale, there's an economic concept that benefit of being large or benefit of being small. So in order to optimize, you create your own internal mechanism, and from there you handle your liquidity requirements. Opportunity cost is a very important concept in our studies. We have to use the best resources given to us in a best way. For example, if I invest somewhere a certain amount on 2%, and later I come to know that I can invest this on 8%. So this 8 minus 2 is my opportunity loss, cost of taking a wrong decision or an inefficient decision. So opportunity cost is something really important in management discussions that we have to say. It's a cost of choosing the next best alternative foregone. So if you have a land, you make a home, you can make a hospital. So hospital will become the opportunity cost of the other option. So this is very important discussion: fair value and present value, future value and present value. Today $1 is $1, but next year $1 will lose its intrinsic value. Maybe it will become $0.96. Then every year it is going to change, decrease in the intrinsic value. So if we invest today 1 million, after 5 years we'll get 5 million. We have to calculate that this 5 million in future is worth as of today as a present value. So these concepts are really important in terms of management. So formula is pretty simple: determine future value of investment based on present value, future value divided by 1 plus interest rate, and n is the number of periods. We use financial calculator. It has time value line, which has IY interest, which has N, which has future value compute. So when we will come to the practical portion of calculation questions, I may use this financial calculator. Cash conversion efficiency, you want to see that how efficiently you're converting your cash. So you have cash flow from operations divided by sales. Current ratio, first you will calculate the working capital ratio. Working capital ratio is working capital is equal to current assets minus current liability. If you divide current assets with current liability, then it will be a working capital ratio. Then we have quick ratio, asset test ratio. So that is cash plus investment plus account receivable. In other way, I can say that if you take your current asset, you minus your inventory, because inventory can take time to sell. So we don't consider it as liquid asset for time being for calculating this ratio. So quickly we can see cash excluding inventory, and more handy, we can take cash flow to the total debt ratios, that is net income plus depreciation plus total debts, means short-term debts and the long-term debts. Cash conversion, if we take days plus days inventory plus days receivable minus days payable, it can give you the same picture. In terms of cash turnover, take 365 days a year divided with cash conversion cycles. Let's talk about disbursement float. Float is the period in which money went out of the hand of the payer, but it is not received in the hand of receiver. So it's in between, and that is we called as float. So time between when the payment is sent and when the funds are debited from the buyer's account. So what we do is we try to create certain wheels mechanism in order to expedite the collection process and minimize the floating period. This will be a very effective liquidity management. Experienced by the sellers in terms of collection float, time between when the customer mails payment and funds are available. Sum of mail float, processing time, and availability float is the correct way of consideration. Invoicing float, time between the customer order is received and the invoice is received, not when it is sent by the buyer. So this will be a floating period for the said invoice. Availability float is experienced by the pay seller of the goods, that is time between when check is deposited and funds are available. Matching maturity, matching financing strategy. We have total permanent assets. They are financed with long-term financing. Short-term financing is used for the current asset. So total permanent asset that we have is the fixed asset divided by permanent current asset. Short-term financing is matched with the needs of temporary current assets. So we see what is our minimum expenditures, what is the liquidity required. These all things will help us in planning. We have certain type of inventories. Some people buy raw material, they process, during process it becomes work in process or progress. Then it goes finished goods, then it's sometime in transit, scraps or stores and supplies. These are certain type of inventories that we are dealing with. Every type of inventory has its own way of disposal and realizing itself into the cash. We have some strategy in order to manage these cash flows in the company. One is conservative and one is aggressive. When we say conservative strategy means, I'll give you one example. Suppose when an individual is a conservative in terms of strategy is when he will come out of the home, he will keep enough cash for a short contingencies they can face. Opposite, we have an aggressive person who whenever he goes out of the home, he don't keep much cash, even credit card. So whenever it is required, he can swap and finish his needs. Same way in companies, some companies make internal policies that they should have at least 3 months rent, 3 months day-to-day expenses in the bank account. That will be conservative. The other will be aggressive, that whenever they need, they'll try to place here and there and will get the fund required in their hand. So long-term financing is used for permanent assets and temporary current assets. Short-term financing is used only when it is necessary. Higher cost but lower risk, since the conservative strategy focus on low risk. In terms of aggressive financing strategy is used for a majority of temporary assets and for long-term assets. generally produces a lower cost but higher prices and uses more short-term financing than the long-term financing, because aggression and aggressiveness is there and they are high risk seekers. Aging report is really important for managing your liquidity and treasury in your company. We should know that how many people are due to pay in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 180 days. So we can have a receivable aging, we can have payable aging, and then we can compare that how much is the requirement, what is in the pocket. So all this will be going around the aging schedules.